Today we cross in a matter of hours country that took the Adnyamathanha Aboriginal people of the Flinders Ranges in South Australia weeks to cover. And even though it brought them into dangerous enemy terrain, they felt compelled to come.
What makes Murruwinji a little bit unusual is the fact that we had many tribal groups from the surrounding region converging on Murruwinji to participate in traditional ceremony.
In the Manbi dreaming, an Adnyamathanha hunter follows his injured prey, a bronze-winged pigeon.
And every time it stopped to rest in its escape travels, its blood and other bodily fluids would seep out onto the ground and unusual geological landforms were created.
Landforms like the Barrier Range, now home to Broken Hill, and spectacular country like the Jump-Ups of Western New South Wales, a dramatic extension of a geological phenomenon that stretches right across to the breakaway country of Coober Pedy. The Aboriginal people would follow these spectacular landmarks to what is one of the most sacred and significant archaeological sites in Australia. Known as Murruwinji, it's the centrepiece of a national park in what's now known as Corner Country, near the South Australian border. Inside the cultural centre, visitors learn of Gullawara, the great ancestral being who wreaked havoc on his people for abandoning their tribal customs, while under the spell of this character, Tinyu, the devious frog.
Gullawara punished the frog by taking away his powers to control people.
Head into the gorges and ravines of this remote spot with Barkindji guide Mark Sutton, and you come across a timeless Dreamtime story, chiselled in rock.
So he changed him from being the big powerful frog with the ability to communicate with humankind into the little silent frog that is known as today.
The lessons of Gullawara were hammered into the consciousness of those who worked here just as forcefully as these figures were hammered into the Murruwinji stone. Murruwinji comes from the Barkindji language and it means place of green grass, and as you can see, this is aptly named, and that's because this is a veritable oasis in the desert. Little wonder then that for thousands of years Aboriginal people have been coming here from hundreds of kilometres away. This is a very, very sacred place. Murruwinji was and still is a meeting place for Aboriginal people scattered across 3 states, South Australia, New South Wales and Queensland. And the reason they gather here? Water. Spring-fed creeks keep the waterholes full all year round, making Murruwinji a magnet for all forms of life. From under the cliffs and overhangs, the people who gathered for ceremonies kept a close eye on all comers, including the first white explorers.
So you can see here where the Aboriginal person has drawn a picture of a horse. There's his ears going up, down to his back and his bushy tail going off the end. And just above that image, we have an image of the little rowboat.
Is it a depiction in ochre of Captain Charles Sturt's party, out here in the desert country, desperately searching for the inland sea? This is the only remnant of post-contact Aboriginal art at Murruwinji. It's surrounded by an endless array of hand stencils blasted onto the rock face over eons.
First of all, is that the ochre is crushed up to a nice fine powder, and a lot of this red ochre was actually imported from the Flinders Ranges.
The precious Flinders Ranges ochre from South Australia was mixed in the artist's mouth with water and emu fat.
Swishing it and swirling it around the mouth, the hand then gets placed up against the stone and the paint is then blown out of the cheeks in a kind of single spray paint motion.
That's how it was done by countless generations for thousands of years. Each hand stencil the signature of a person with a deep spiritual connection to this country.
We have a lot of things which we really identify with to make us feel Australian, things like the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge. So when you talk about Aboriginal cultures throughout Australia, we as the people of those cultures identify with places like this. It is this site which makes me feel really like a Barkindji person. So I think a lot of people really need to see it in that kind of context.
So this is kind of your Sistine Chapel?
Absolutely, exactly that.
Murruwinji National Park is about 70 kilometres east of the SA border in New South Wales. For a pass, contact 08 8080 3200. Tri-State Safaris run regular tours into this part of the outback, following ancient Aboriginal trade routes which crisscross the borders of South Australia, New South Wales and Queensland.